Few officials use the power of the executive branch to make political statements quite like Florida Governor Ron DeSantis. He's regulated language in elementary schools and used Florida taxpayer money to fly migrants from Texas to Massachusetts. And then there are elections. DeSantis said Florida had no issues in the 2020 election, but he's overseen a new election crime unit, which got to work in August by going after some pretty specific targets.
The state of Florida has charged and is in the process of arresting 20 individuals across the state for voter fraud.
The task force arrested 20 people for illegally voting. All of them had been previously convicted of a felony. Now, Florida did restore voting rights to most people convicted of felonies when it passed Amendment 4 back in 2018. But these people weren't included in that because they've been convicted of murders or sexual crimes. But most of them said that they thought they were eligible to vote, and some had even received voter registration cards. If it was just a confusion, it would seem easy enough to just not let them vote without the whole arrest part.
Apparently, I guess you have a warrant?
For what?
I'm not sure.
It's for voter stuff, man.
For voters.
It's what it is. I think the agents with FDLE talked to you last week about some voter fraud, voter stuff, when you weren't supposed to be voting, maybe.
I didn't.
So
What are they talking about?
that's
man?
what we're not the case agents, but what you got to do, they have reduced your bond quite a bit. It's 2 felony charges for voter fraud, but they've reduced it to $500 bonds. So it's $1,000 total.
Oh my God, man! What?
So, yes, sir. So unfortunately, right now we're going to have to take you to jail.
The situation is confusing apparently for both voters and law enforcement. But what's also confusing is the timing. The arrests come just a few months before a consequential midterm election, and more than a year after the alleged crimes.
I'm like, voter fraud. I voted, but I ain't commit no fraud.
Well, so that's the thing. I don't know exactly what happened with it, but you do have a warrant. That's what it's for. Okay.
Oh my God.
The guy who oversees elections in the election crime unit is Florida Secretary of State Cord Byrd, who still questions the 2020 election result. 64-year-old Robert Simpson told WPTV station, which is in West Palm Beach, that he thought his voting rights had been restored, especially after filling out a voter application and then being sent voter registration cards from his local supervisor of elections. Why was he told he could vote?
So he wasn't told he could vote. Once again, when you fill out that card and you say that you are an eligible voter, we confirm that someone is a living, breathing human being and they are sent a voter information card. And that's what it is called in statute. It doesn't say this is a legal document. It doesn't say that this means you're valid to vote. It is an informational card only that everyone receives, whether or not they have been truthful on the form.
So the onus is on the voter, you're saying?
That's what the courts have said. Now, for anybody, any felon who wants to know whether their rights have been restored, this office, under the Division of Elections and our General Counsel's office, anyone can seek an advisory opinion. That is on our website. But these people, ultimately they lied on the form, and there are consequences for lying, and we're going to enforce and uphold the laws in Florida, and that's what we're doing.
The Florida ACLU told us that the cases could, quote, intimidate voters who would otherwise be eligible to vote. It's also tough to prosecute anyone without proof they intended to break the law. One case has already been dismissed on procedural grounds. The arrests were mostly made in Democratic counties, and DeSantis has made sure credit goes to his administration and the election crimes team. There have also been other instances in the past year and a half in places like the Villages, which is a really Republican stronghold for the governor. And why was there this fanfare over these 20 felons in this one part of the state, and why not a press conference for the people who double voted and admitted it in the Villages?
Sure, and those 2 people pled guilty recently. So, and then there's the ghost candidate trial going on, I believe in Miami.
Yeah.
So it's not just solely the state's role to prosecute. The state attorney and local law enforcement can prosecute and are prosecuting, and that's good, and we support them. So I'm surprised when, not from you, but in others in the media have criticized, it's like, we're not going to step in when there's already a prosecution taking place.
I guess I just mean more of like the fanfare around it.
Right.
There's this big press conference with the governor, law enforcement standing behind them in uniform, That didn't happen with the villages. Why was that?
Local law enforcement was already engaged in that process. I mean, this office was created. It was started on July 1 is when it went into effect. So it was new, and it was interesting because up until that time, I kept getting inquiries. Well, what are you doing? Why isn't it doing anything? What is its purpose? We haven't heard anything. And then as soon as we go do something, then it's, well, why did you need to do this? So it's no surprise that Governor DeSantis and championing the Office of Election Crimes and Security in the legislature would want to promote the fact that we are going to enforce our laws and we take election fraud and any instances of election fraud seriously in the state.
This isn't the first time Republicans have tried to undermine Amendment 4, which passed with a clear majority in 2018. As soon as the law went into effect, the state legislature interpreted it to require returning citizens to pay fines, fees, or restitution. And there's still not an easy way to figure out what you owe. Why doesn't the Secretary of State's office just maintain a list of those people?
So it's part of it is the information coming from the clerks of court level, because every county does it a little differently, but ultimately the person needs to be responsible, and they know whether or not they owe fines, fees, and restitution, and they can go and check if they're not sure.
Well, my experience talking with a lot of these people was that they didn't know sometimes, and they found it very, very difficult to figure out if they could go vote. So it sounds like, and you're kind of saying this too, it's a difficult system, it sounds like, right?
I don't know that it's that difficult, but I think it takes effort. And I think if citizenship requires participation and effort, and if individuals want to be returned to full citizenship status, for those who really want to regain those rights, they will go and do the necessary work to make sure that they are eligible. So I think the resources are there for those who put in the effort to want to once again regain the franchise.
And you think you and your office are doing all you can to help those people?
We are, and we're doing everything we can. We look to improve every single day to make sure that every single eligible voter in Florida has that opportunity and those resources are made available to them.
I'm Michael Learmonth, editor-in-chief of Vice News. Too often, traditional news outlets shy away from the real stories and experiences of those living through global conflicts. Not Vice News. Our reporters are on the ground, fearlessly covering the human stories that shape our world. You and millions of others can continue to read, watch, and listen to Vice News for free. But we hope you'll consider making a one-time or ongoing contribution of any size at vice.com/contribute. Every contribution, no matter how big or small, helps support the journalism Vice News brings to you every day. Thank you.